Hello everyone, this is MC Deck Discussions and I'm OhBSmall, and today we have another deck discussion from our tournament, our limited environment draft tournament. And this is Psylocke Justice deck, 40 cards, called Inside and Upside the Head. It's meant to be that inside the head, messing with the enemy's heads, especially with confuses, but hopefully also with some stuns. And then upside the head, in particular, meant to be used to mostly actually hoping to stun the villain with upside the head, that hopefully the villain is already confused. Ebony Maw in this case. This is the fourth round, and this was the deck used for the first game of the fourth round. The fourth round is the final round of the tournament. Okay? And I will be talking about the results of the game. So if you haven't seen the game, the gameplay, then you can go check that out first. Otherwise, I'm going to talk about that here. Right. So, but the goal is typically to use upside the head when the enemy is confused, so that we can actually stun the enemy. Right. So that's the goal with this card. Though, if the enemy's not confused yet, then we can certainly use this to do that too. Okay. All right. And then let's go ahead and get into the deck. Actually, I want to talk about the potential strategies here. Let's just name who's in the deck for the allies. And then we'll come back over here to these potential strategies, right? So we've got, of course, Angel comes in the deck, but we have Beak, who's an X-Men, Deadpool, who's Mercenary and X-Force, Forge, who's an X-Men character who can help us get a couple of our supports in play. I might as well mention those two. There's Cerebro is an X-Men one, and then there's also Utopia and X-Mansion, right? So can possibly get those into hand to maybe get into play. Then Marvel Girl is Psionic and X-Men. Mockingbird is in here to stun the enemy. Nick Fury for some card draw. And then Professor X, a Psionic and X-Men, meant to confuse the villain. And White Queen, a Psionic and X-Men, and is meant to help out by discarding status cards from a character. It is quite possible to get stunned and confused when facing Ebony Maw, and White Queen can do a great job of helping with that. And we have a particular strategy that we're using in this deck. This deck, playing against Ebony Maw is very much different than when I played the leadership deck against our first villain. Our villain, from the first round. Okay. All right. So then the events, I already mentioned what upside the head is for. For the resources, we got 3 doubles and 2 copies of Power of the Mind to help with the psionic cards. Note that her events are all psionic cards, so 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 events. Those are all psionic cards, plus you notice I had some psionic allies as well. And then for the supports, Cerebro can help us get X-Men into play, and we have 5 of these allies are X-Men allies. And on top of that, if you look at Cerebro, it's, exhaust Cerebro. It's an alter ego action. Search the top 5 cards of your deck for an X-Men ally, and then search your whole deck instead if you control a psionic character and add that ally to your hand. And Psylocke, in her alter ego side, is a mutant and a psionic. So she's able to look through the entire deck to pick who we want. But in this gameplay, we want to go to alter ego frequently and use Psylocke's alter ego ability. So let's look at both of her abilities real quickly. First of all, on the hero side, she's Psionic and X-Force traded. 1 thwart, 1 attack, 2 defense, 10 hit points, hand size of 4. She has the Psi Energy control ability on her hero side. It's an interrupt. When you use one of Psylocke's basic powers, you can flip Psi Energy upgrade. And then for her alter ego, she's mutant and psionic. Recovery of 3, 10 hand points, hand size of 6. And her psionic manifestation just sets up her Psi Energy upgrades. But then for the action is exhaust 1 Psi Energy upgrade, shuffle 1 psionic card from your discard pile into your deck. And she has 2 of those. She can actually do both of those if she wants. Most of the time I only did 1, but I think I did do 2, maybe even in the video. And so she can get psionic cards back into her deck. So that could be any of her, events that I mentioned, but also any of these allies that are psionic characters. They could get back in there too. And so I took advantage of that quite a bit to keep getting there was the two main characters that I would get back are Professor X and White Queen. So Professor X, so that I can confuse if I need to and remove 3 immediate threat, and then White Queen in order to move those confusions and stun statuses. And I think in the game I might have done that twice with White Queen. I can't remember for sure. But, so using these permanents here, exhausting them while in alter ego side to get those cards back, but sometimes to get the events back too. A lot of times I didn't necessarily need Professor X because she has a number of her events can confuse the villain already. So as an example, Flurry of Blades, her attack, that can not only deal damage, but you can then choose an enemy and confuse them. So she already has some of that ability to confuse already. So sometimes I didn't need Professor X. But no matter what, I would like to get, one of those 3 very often back into hand so that I could use Cerebro over and over again. So even though I only had 5 allies that were X-Men, putting them back in my hand meant I could use Cerebro to get them back. And then Children of the Atom is in the deck. Each X-Factor, X-Force, and X-Men character you control gains the X-Factor, X-Force, and X-Men trait. So that allowed us to use team building exercise in a fuller way because, so first of all, you can already use team building exercise because her hero traits are Psionic and X-Force. You can already use team building exercise to play any of her events as well as help to play the X-Force characters. But as soon as Children of the Atom is in play, then you can also use team building exercise to help play any of the X-Men characters as well. Moira McTaggart is in there to help draw cards since we're going to alter ego so frequently. And then Utopia. So the other part of having Children of the Atom out is eventually, so the goal wasn't necessarily to get Utopia out early, but later in the game, get Utopia out and have Children of the Atom out. And then Utopia can trigger to ready Psylocke because now Psylocke would be an X-Men character. And then X-Men Mansion is meant to heal. And the goal isn't necessarily to get all of these in play, though the games tended to last a while, so I was able to very often get all of them. In that final game, I didn't get X-Mansion out, but in the other 2 games my practice games that I did get X-Mansion out both times, and they helped to keep Psylocke, Psylocke's health out. And then for the upgrades, counterintelligence is meant to be that extra insurance to help make sure the main scheme doesn't, prevents 3 threat from going on the main scheme. So it's a nice little insurance for that. And then endurance to add, some extra hit points. She already has 10 hit points to begin with, but the damage can come pretty, once those spells trigger for Ebony Maw, you could end up loading up on some damage pretty quickly. So the endurance provides an element of safety. And float like a butterfly, unfortunately, in the game that I recorded, that didn't get out into play. But with all of those, confusions I was doing to the main enemy, the hope was to increase the amount of damage that attacks deal to that enemy by 1. So that would have been really nice to be able to do that. But at least we got, so that didn't happen, but, we were able to control the game pretty well. So all 3 of the games, so the 2 practice games and the real game, resulted in victories. And so for the points total wise, as a reminder, if we, a win is 10 points, but then -1 for each threat on the main scheme, and -1 for each minion and side scheme in play. There were 2 threat on the main scheme, no minions or side schemes, so I did end up with 8 points. And decided not to risk it any further to keep the game going and just finish it at that point. But this was a very fun deck going against Ebony Maw, and in my mind, this actually is a really cool deck. So this is the first game. So with Psylocke, I actually had never used her alter ego ability, that action of exhausting a psi energy upgrade and shuffling psionic cards back into your deck. But in this game, that was a major focus and strategy against Ebony Maw, and I could see using this against other villains as well. So it's really neat using that aspect of it. Playing Psylocke in a way I've never played her before. All right, so hope you enjoyed this. Remember to like and subscribe if you appreciate this kind of content. And I love having conversations with people in the comment section. All right, for those who don't know, the potential strategies. Did I mention all of them? Oh, I used to have Weapon X in here. I'll have to get rid of that in the description here. This is not a publicly published deck, but it is part of my private collection, and I will put the link to this in the description of the video for those who are interested in checking it out. I'll have to edit this briefly first, but then you can go ahead and do that. All right, have a great one, everybody.